the thing that drew me in, not quite 10 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I visited this university for the first time.
Oh, okay. Just as a visit?
Probably everybody assumes that when I showed up here a month ago, that was the first time I was here. But no, I was doing research in Abu Dhabi at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and was able to visit a number of the universities in the region. And when I stepped foot on this campus, I said, whoa, there's something special going on here. And that was the vibrant student life. And, so that the clubs, the athletics, the conferences, just the general energy and buzz here, very attractive. So I wanted to be a part of that. So I knew 8, 9, 10 years ago when I stepped foot on this campus that this would be a place that I would want to return to in some capacity. So it was always kind of on my radar over the last decade or so.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new season, actually, of the AUD podcast channel. Guys, we are finally on video on YouTube, so you're going to be seeing a lot of this face now. We are very, very honored to welcome our inaugural guest to season 3 and to the video podcast, Dr. Kyle Long. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
So, guys, for the people who don't know, Dr. Kyle recently joined as the new president of AUD. So, on behalf of myself, our fellow alumni, and the faculty, I want to wish you a warm, warm welcome. We're very excited to have you, and given your experience at previous universities, we're so excited for where you're going to take us over the next couple of years. But before we get into everything, Dr. Kyle, would love for you to give us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. I'm a fan. I was listening more than watching last year when you had Siwar Zain from Microsoft on the show. And upon hearing that, I said, "This is a really impressive person. I need to meet her." And so I did.
Oh, no way. Okay.
And we have since gotten her involved in the work of the university. Recently, she facilitated a retreat, staff leadership retreat for us, and I would not have found out about her if she was not on this show. So
that's
fantastic. You're doing a great service for the university in many ways, but very specifically in that way. So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
So keep up the good work.
We'll
all these great guests on here, and you've set very high standards for guests. So I've got to do my part today. But you asked me about myself and where I come from and what I'm all about, and let me give you a quick thumbnail sketch. I come to AUD most previously from George Washington University, where I was on the faculty in the School of Education, teaching courses on globalization and public diplomacy and international higher education and development and things like that. Before that, I was an administrator and faculty member at Northwestern University, where, again, I was serving in the School of Education, teaching in a graduate program in higher education administration, but was serving in that university in the capacity primarily as the senior director of organizational strategy and change, helping the university develop its strategies for the kinds of university it wanted to become. And I came into that role through my experiences as a consultant to various higher education leaders in the United States and abroad. And the sort of consulting work was, again, a consequence of some work that I had done previously in the international higher education space. I got involved in universities like AUD years ago when I helped to start an American university in Iraq.
We heard about that. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I joined the American University of Iraq in the city of Sulaimani, which is in the north in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. When that university was only in its 3rd year of existence. It hadn't graduated a class of students yet.
Wow.
And
quite a task.
It's a startup, very much a startup. Here at AUD, we're in our 30th year. We're becoming quite a mature institution.
Absolutely.
But that situation was quite the opposite. You compare a 3rd year to your 30th year, it's a big difference in terms of organizational development. And so it was very thrilling, actually, and it was, coming from the United States at that point, somewhat exotic. and almost romantic, I guess.
Romantic?
Yeah, there's when you're an expatriate and you're moving abroad, and I was in my 20s then, and it was, the world of my oyster kind of situation. But then it became very difficult. When we arrived, the U.S. troops were still stationed in Iraq, and but then over time, they left. Funding dried up for the university. It became very difficult. But yet we had still made promises to transform the lives of a lot of young people, and so what were we going to do about it? We couldn't abandon that project.
Sure.
And so it required a lot of ingenuity and a lot of dedication, and it was just a very meaningful experience for me.
Yeah. No, I can tell by the way you speak about it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it really meant a lot to you.
That's right.
And I think the example you gave of going from third year, like having your experience in like a third year and now in like a 30 year is quite significant.
Yeah.
So you've held a lot of, as you just mentioned, positions at many prestigious universities, around the world, and we're so excited to have you here at AUD. So I'd love to understand from you, given your experience, and not just your experience, because you also have experience outside the States. Yeah. So I think you come here with quite a unique perspective, especially in this part of the world that a lot of people might not have. So if you were to describe, I guess, your vision or your leadership style that you want to apply to this new project, how would you describe that to us?
Yeah, well, look, I've been very fortunate to have been affiliated with many fine institutions of higher learning, and what I've taken away from those experiences is that you can find good leaders at all levels of an organization, and when I think about some of the best leaders that I've encountered at Northwestern or George Washington or Columbia or elsewhere, is that they haven't always been the presidents or the CEOs of those organizations. I've encountered program directors and volunteer board members from whom I've learned a lot about leadership. These are people who set and advance very far-reaching and inspiring agendas. They create opportunities for people. They inspire excellence. And so for me, that really showed me that if you're going to be a good leader, you've got to be inclusive. And that's probably what I would characterize as a hallmark of my leadership style that I've just sort of refined and honed through those many experiences. I have found the cliche of if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yes.
If you want to go far, go together. I found that to be true. That was especially the case at Northwestern, where all of that university's big initiatives, strategic plans, and far-reaching ideas were informed by a broad cross-section of that campus's constituencies. Students, faculty, staff, alumni, community members, politicians. They had everybody getting a seat at the table on their biggest initiatives. And while that university has gone very far, it didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely,
and,
sure.
And so I think the takeaway for me there was, if you get those people involved, you're likely to put together a better product. So the challenge, however, is that I think inclusivity alone won't solve all of your problems.
True.
Are you familiar with the phrase, a camel is a horse designed by a committee?
No, that's brand new to me.
No disrespect to camels, but I think that the idea there is that a committee comes together with a task, and even if it's very diverse and inclusive committee, especially if it is one of those, you sometimes wind up with imperfections baked in because you're trying to compromise too much. And so while it's important to be inclusive, it doesn't mean that vision and judgment don't matter. In fact, you've got to supplement that inclusivity with vision and judgment.
So would you say, it sounds like what you're saying is the challenge with inclusivity, because as you correctly said, it's hard to bring everyone together, number one, and all of those people you mentioned, like the students, the faculty, the politicians, all of those have their own priorities and agendas for this plan that we're trying to create together. So would you say it's important to outline the mission and the vision before you start looking at inclusivity and bringing everyone to address these specific issues? Because I think you need to have some things set out first and then bring people to the table to be like, what's the best way for us to do these things?
Sure. I would say it's less of a linear approach and more of a cyclical one. A great example of this is our university. AUD, established in 1995, was probably less clear about what its actual vision and mission was than what it was in 2014. The vision and mission statements that we have at this university today were developed 10 years ago. They weren't the ones that were set out in 1995. But yet we were still able to do a lot in those first 20 years or so. But we continuously revisit those visions and those mission statements. And so I think that the work ahead of us for the next 5, 10, 15 years or so benefits from that work that was done at that time. And frankly, the work that was done in 2014 by coming up with this idea of us being a culturally diverse learning community, that encapsulation, I think, of what we are really propelled the university forward the last 10 years. And we can build on that momentum. And so I guess the point to answer your question about like order of operations and things is yes and.
I like that.
Yes, it's helpful to have a clear mission, but it's a necessary but insufficient condition for growth.
I see.
You've got to have a strategy to build on your mission, and having a good strategy is also a necessary but insufficient condition, because you can't just take any strategy. The things that we did at Northwestern, I can't just bring them here and expect them to work. You've got to have one that fits your culture as
Absolutely.
well.
And on the inclusivity point that you mentioned, I know the university here, I was a former graduate as well, so I've experienced it myself. I know we have over, I think, 100 or 200 nationalities over here, so I've met people from all over the world. My friends group are all like mixed as well.
It's really amazing. I mean, this university is a microcosm of Dubai, right?
No, absolutely. That's actually, I love that you said that, because it really is. When I look at Dubai and growing up here as well, we were always in international schools. So even when we came to the university, it felt very familiar that AUD was taking the same approach that not only Dubai, but I think the UAE was taking to bring people here and advance not just the UAE but the region as a whole. And I wanted to ask, so Northwestern, Columbia, all these universities, I know, like you said, we can't just take strategies from there and then bring them here. But I wanted to ask from your perspective, what was it about AUD in particular that motivated you, that you saw like, I think these guys have done a great job and I want to be a part of that to take us all to that next level?
Yeah, great question. It's not an accident that I wound up here.
I don't think so
either. I was aspiring to a university presidency, but I didn't want to be a president of a community college in Washington, D.C. or a large research university in Tokyo. I very specifically wanted to be the president of an American university in this part of the world. I have made my career and my life's work around the advocacy of and fostering appreciation for the kinds of institutions that AUD belongs to, a larger category of institutions that practice American higher education outside of the United States. So there was a sort of a general interest in AUD. But your question is more about the specifics of it. What is it about this particular place?
Exactly. Yeah.
And this particular place was attractive to me for many reasons. First, it's not lost on me that AUD is the oldest American university in the Gulf. And that brings with it a very serious responsibility for setting standards, for showing others who have come after us what the path forward looks like. And so to be part of an institution with that mantle of leadership is very exciting. This particular institution has a demonstrated commitment to liberal education and student success. I very much value those things and wanted to be a part of it. The thing that drew me in, not quite 10 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I visited this university for the first time.
Oh, okay. Just as a visit?
Probably everybody assumes that when I showed up here a month ago, that was the first time I was here. But no, I was doing research in Abu Dhabi at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and was able to visit a number of the universities in the region. And when I stepped foot on this campus, I said, whoa, there's something special going on here. And that was the vibrant student life. And, so that the clubs, the athletics, the conferences, just the general energy and buzz here, very attractive. So I wanted to be a part of that. So I knew 8, 9, 10 years ago when I stepped foot on this campus that this would be a place that I would want to return to in some capacity. So it was always kind of on my radar over the last decade or so. The other thing that attracted me to AUD is a history of stable leadership at this institution. My immediate predecessor, Dr. Lance DeMasi, was president of this university for 20 years. And when you can see that a person is here for that long of a time, it signals to the rest of the world that this is a place that values continuity and stability. And so that was an attractive feature to me as well. Finally, I'll just say that it's obvious to anybody with a pulse that the UAE is on the rise, and Dubai specifically. And AUD is especially well positioned to contribute to that growth. And so there's a real opportunity to be part of something very meaningful. And so all of those things combined to make this a very attractive opportunity for me.
No, it sounds. First of all, I don't know if anyone else knew that you visited a long time ago.
I did it incognito then. I wasn't a known quantity. I could come and I could meet with faculty and students and as just a visiting researcher, not as the man who would become president 10 years later.
But I think what I love about that experience is you were able to get a very objective view of the university and have conversations with people that were probably real and honest conversations about their feelings about the university, about their experiences and so on. When you talked about liberal education, as a graduate of the university myself, that is one of the things I love the most about the university is not only from an obviously academic perspective, it was fantastic, but the student life here was really, really amazing. The friends that I made here, the connections I made are my closest friends today, are my business partners now as well. So. And all the alumni that we've had on the show and that I always talk to, everyone remembers their time here, not just for the education, but the people they met.
I'm glad you mentioned that. When I spoke to new students and parents at orientation this year, one of the things that I told them that I was so excited for them to experience is the opportunity to make lifelong friends, because you can do that here at this place. And I'm happy to hear that happened for you as well. There's lots of different kinds of friends that you can make here, right? Like you can make the casual acquaintance who might just be useful for you for networking purposes 15 years from now and you don't even know it. You'll make the kinds of friends who are just like fun to be around, right?
Yeah,
just
like,
sure. Geez, I enjoyed that conversation and I got to make sure that I get a pizza and go over to that guy's house. You'll make those kinds of friends at this place, but you'll also make those friends who are sort of like, see you in here, and like
the true friends,
the true friends that you link up with on a very sort of almost celestial level, and it's just really neat that this is a place that can do that for a person.
No, absolutely. I think I love that you said that because and the different types of friendships, because I'm sure we all have those different types of friendships, but. Every time I've spoken to an alumni, once we have a conversation, you're like, oh, you're an alumni too, I'm an alumni. Already there's that. And doesn't matter what the age is, if they've graduated a long time before me or we were close in age, everyone it's that link that brings us all together. And I think the AUD environment really has done a fantastic job. I can speak from firsthand experience of cultivating that. You mentioned liberal education. And as you know, growing up in the world, like, academics are important, but it's also important to learn, life skills and to be exposed to different types of people and situations. And the student experience plays a big, big part in that. So, and I know that is something that's very, very important to you, that you want the students to have a holistic experience, that hits lots of different aspects. So from your experience at previous universities and the liberal education that you've seen here so far, what is it about liberal education that's so important to you, and why?
Yeah, I mean, what's important to me about liberal education is what distinguishes it from other kinds of education, right? I think especially now in 2024, in a global economy, education has become sort of synonymous with career readiness and job training.
Yeah.
And when people pursue higher education now, it's almost exclusively for the purpose of preparing yourself for a career, getting a good job.
Exactly.
And getting a good first job, frankly. You go get a 4-year university degree because you want to, get a job at Google or Meta or whatever. And I think that is a good reason to get an education.
Fair.
I also think there are other reasons to get an education. And having a career, especially one that you value and one that's meaningful to you and helps you to provide for your family, but it gives you access to friends and create networks and advance your own skills over the course of a few decades or so, is a meaningful is a way to have a meaningful life. It's not the only way to have a meaningful life, and so I think what distinguishes a liberal education from other kinds of education is that we help our students to think about their careers in context as a component of having a meaningful life, but that there are other ways to do that. There are going to be periods in your life that are on the up and everything is going your way, and there are going to be periods of your life where you just can't seem to get a break. And what I'm hopeful for about a liberal education is that it allows people the skills to manage those periods of ups and downs, and to find comfort and meaning in other parts of their lives. It also to sort of foster an inclination toward lifelong learning.
Absolutely.
To thinking about things outside of your immediate domain of your profession. And so I think when we talk about a liberal education, you're probably going to ask me, well, what does that actually mean? What are the components of that? And I think that at a fundamental level, what we're really talking about is the intentional combination of broad and deep study, right? When your own experience here presumably included participation in a core curriculum in which you were exposed to academic disciplines ranging from the humanities and fine arts to the social sciences to the mathematics and natural sciences, so that you had a broad base. And the reason we do that is not just to make you a more interesting person to talk to at parties. It's because it will, by the time you start to specialize in what was your major?
I did double major in finance and economics.
Okay. So by the time you were doing finance and economics, you had also read some literature. You had also studied some international relations. You had exposed yourself to different ways of thinking that aren't always part of the curriculum of finance, for example. And so as a result, you're a much more effective financial professional because you can integrate your learning. You can make connections in ways that your peers who did not have that broad foundation were able to do. Peers who went just straight into studying finance or accounting don't get that broad-based education. And so, one thing that I'd point out about why this is so important is it's not an accident. There's no coincidence between our emphasis on liberal education here at AUD and our high employability rate. those two things are deeply, deeply integrated. And we firmly believe that the kind of work we're doing at the front end of a student's education, especially when we're building that broad foundation, is the key to their success, not just in getting that first job, but to building a very meaningful life and working through over the course of their career.
So it sounds like from your definition of it that a liberal education comes down to two crucial things, or maybe two or three crucial things. Number one, being a much more open-minded, broad thinker, thinking more critically about the decisions and the choices and the careers you want to make. But I think one of the things that underlines all that, which is probably the most important, is the meaning. And I think a lot of us, I can speak from my experience at universities, I think that element was something that it does take time to find. But I'm so grateful that I was able to find it, it here, because not a lot of people do, and that's something that I always hold quite, dear to my heart, that I was able to find, through AUD. And through running this podcast, for me, it's kind of bringing everything full circle.
Yeah.
I was a student now, and now here I come back to university I want to give back to the students with the university, just like everything the university gave me. And on the point of lifelong learning, I'm someone who's incredibly passionate about learning. I'm a bookworm. I read all these different things because, like you correctly said, you don't know what if I learn about something that has nothing to do with what I do or what I say. Down the line, that thing that I learned, you never know when it's going to come in handy. Yeah. And I believe everything you learn, doesn't matter what it is, at some point in your life, in probably the most unexpected ways, is going to come up and show up. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I think you're right on about the unexpected. You can plan yourself the most perfect curriculum, but it won't mean anything when 10 years later those technologies are obsolete, and what are you left with? The boxer Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they're punched in the mouth, right? That's kind of what we're trying to do here. I mean, you hear words like future-proof, and that's probably been overused, but there's some truth in it. There are some proven strategies to equipping young people with the tools that will help them to navigate any terrain, regardless of what the specific technological skills or capabilities they might require for their immediate job.
Exactly. And I think that kind of brings us on to the topic of research, because I know you have a huge background in research. I actually read one of your papers, which was, for someone like me that doesn't know about the American education system outside of the United States, it was very, very interesting to me.
Don't sell yourself short. You have firsthand knowledge of it as a graduate of this institution.
That's true. That's true. You mentioned I know research is something quite important to you, and you're also known as one of the leading experts globally on American education outside of the States. So, from a research perspective, what role do you see research playing at AUD, and what would you like it to become more of to add a significant research component to university, or what's your perspective on research and how that will take AUD forward?
Sure, great question. A very interesting one at this particular moment in time. Historically, AUD, like a lot of other American universities outside of the United States, because they are private universities, have been historically focused on the teaching aspect of what universities do. And the sort of customary way to think about what universities do is in the expectations for faculty: teaching, research, service. And traditionally at AUD, a lot of that expectation has been tilted towards the teaching side. We do expect our faculty to participate in research and in service, but we have been, I think, traditionally satisfied by them skewing their work towards teaching. And while I don't anticipate changing that, I don't think that we'll ever become a sort of large research university. I do think, however, that the opportunities for participating in research are going to become greater. Environmentally, there are some shifts that AUD needs to be poised to take advantage of, not least of which is in the news lately. The Dubai Future Foundation has announced that it is going to start partnering with higher education institutions in Dubai to make advancements in the areas of what they're calling cognitive cities and in the health space. And for the first time ever, faculty from private higher education institutions are going to be eligible for research funding that has historically only been limited to the government universities.
Exactly.
And so this is a great opportunity for AUD to make some contributions to advance society, which is part of our mission. And we have been advancing society through research in the past, but we've primarily been advancing society through the production of our graduates.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely going to continue, but this allows us to amplify our work. And I'm really excited for AUD to start to take advantage of some of these new opportunities for research.
Yeah. And I think I love what you said there. It's not either or, it's an and.
That's right.
You know, the emphasis, of course, will still be on what has got us here today, but adding that research element from your perspective will allow us to take advantage of opportunities that seem to be coming up over the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Absolutely right. I mean, we should never compromise what has made us distinctive, which is our attention on individual students. The care from your professors that you got here that made you into this very impressive media personality today is something that I value tremendously, and I know that all of my colleagues on the faculty and staff do as well. And so we've got to find a way to reinforce that, but to supplement it with take a broader view of our mission and continuously reflect and refine and find better ways to become a better version of ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, that's the mission of the university, and that's why I love, I love going here. And so on the point you just mentioned, and this is a point that I haven't previously heard from many, presidents of universities. They're usually more focused on, building the university. But I love what you said there about we have a chance to be a bigger contributor to the community and to the society. So I'd love to hear from you. I don't know if you've had previous experiences, integrating, previous universities into the community more. But when you talk about being more involved in the community, what do you specifically mean by that? How would we like to implement that?
I mean, I think you should always, when you think about community, start with your immediate environment, right? Okay. I think at AUD here in Media City, we're blessed by our immediate proximity to some of the world's great companies, right? You look out the door, you see CNN, you see Meta, you see Pfizer, and I want us to be good neighbors to them. When I think of community, the word neighbor comes up in my mind as an association, and I think it's imperative that we support the people around us. And so I'm eager to learn more from them about what they need, what they're looking for in terms of workforce development, what they're looking for in terms of research support, in terms of professional development for them. We have a number of different resources here, especially in our faculty, but also in our students who can supply them with case studies and tackling real-world problems that they're experiencing, and our faculty for providing short-term professional development opportunities, customized courses for them. Providing students to do internships and, supplying fresh graduates into their workforce. So we need to make sure that we're giving them the people with the skills that they need. So when I think of community engagement, I think about listening to our neighbors and finding out what it is that they're thinking about. What's keeping them up at night? What are they worried about for the future of their organizations? And just keeping that line of communication open and making sure that they know that we're a resource for them, even if we don't have the idea for them right now, but just making sure that we're always checking in and making sure that they feel welcome here. mean, we also need them. You
Of
know,
course,
like
yeah,
this
absolutely.
isn't just any
Yeah.
good relationship is a two-way street.
Absolutely.
So we need them as advisory board members, as adjunct instructors, as spectators at Knights basketball games. You know, like they should feel welcome here, and we should feel welcome there. And so I think that when you think of community engagement, it's all about being good neighbors.
I love that metaphor of being a good neighbor because I think it really resonated with me at least and helped me understand that link. And we've actually have had people on the podcast before, and one of the big challenges or that they've discussed or the professors were talking about is exactly what you were saying. Like we need to be academia and industry need to be working together.
That's right.
Because we need to know our students need to know what is coming so we can prepare them for that. And also, when you speak to industry, you get, because they probably have more foresight because they're actually in the industry and working in it. So there's like the short-term versus the long-term needs, and we kind of need each other to bring that together.
Yeah.
So we're both happy here.
We are talking to employers constantly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it gets reflected sometimes in very subtle ways, the insights that we draw from them. I was in a meeting the other day where someone tried to make an observation about what they perceived to be as some stasis in our engineering programs. And the dean of the School of Engineering, Dr. Wa'al Bazi, said, whoa. Over the last 10 years, we've made 70 curricular changes in the engineering program that don't always look like new degree programs, right? So there's always refinements to our programming that occurs because of conversations we're having with our partners, from GE to Amazon to other leading companies. Our ongoing relationship with them is reflected in some minor modifications to maybe course sequencing or different outcomes that we will introduce into an existing course.
Sure.
So these kinds of things are going on constantly.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it's, even bringing it back to the vision of the university, I think I love what you said at the beginning of our conversation, that it's not necessarily an order of operation, it's cyclical.
That's right.
And it's a strategy that, like the university, as we do in all our lives, you're constantly reflecting, constantly tweaking, constantly evolving, and it's something that you should always come back to and make sure, are we aligning with our values? Great, that's step one, and then how can we do that a little bit better?
Right.
You know, how can we just tweak that a little bit?
I mean, that spirit of self-improvement is flooding through this place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
the UAE is insane for that.
In the UAE, and then specifically at AUD, I'm finding everywhere I go people who are just asking questions about how they can do their work better, because they love this place. Yeah. And when you love a place, you want to you can approach it with a very constructively critical mind frame. And I've found that our staff and our faculty here are just constantly thinking about how to do things better. And I really appreciate that, and I think that it benefits our students and our graduates at the end of the day.
Well, I can speak from first-hand experience. It definitely has helped me. Dr. Kyle, I want to be conscious of our time and just have a couple more questions for you. I wanted to ask you on what are the, I guess, given your experience, and I think the fact that you were part of the University of Iraq as well makes you have quite a unique perspective on the region. What do you see as being the biggest roadblocks or challenges to higher educational institutions in the region?
Competition.
Or globally?
Competition. I mean, there are more and more higher education institutions every year. I mean, in the UAE, the growth of this sector has been enormous. And we're all competing for the same students. We're all competing for the same faculty.
Yeah.
So this is it's a challenge to outflank the competition. So that's one. Another is the same disruption that's a challenge for all other industries right now, which is artificial intelligence, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's completely disrupting how we think about what goes on in a classroom, what we can expect students to do outside of the classroom. It's changing the kinds of assignments that faculty give their students. It's changing the quality of work that students are generating. And so we need to, and the problem is that it's just not like a new stable thing that has emerged and we need to figure it out. Kind of like how the pandemic was, when that came through, it was just sort of like, okay, now we all can't be in the same place, so let's figure out how to come up with a solution that allows us to do learning while we're all remote.
Yeah.
It was a sort of a singular challenge, and then you could develop strategies and refine them and tweak them and get better at it, but it was sort of like a single thing. With AI, it's just constantly changing. We're still learning every day new features and new capabilities, and it's just, so it's a different nature of threat. Threat's not the right word. Challenge. Because there's a lot of opportunity inherent in that challenge too. Initially, I think AI posed the reaction to it was as a threat. Faculty were like, oh goodness, now the students are just plagiarizing papers and they're getting ChatGPT to create all their work for them, and how do I detect it? And, but now I think we're revising and we're thinking, okay, rather than trying to stop students from using it, how can we help them use it in ways that will actually improve their learning? How can we use it in ways that will make them more competitive on the job market? How can we deploy AI to make staff work more efficient and effective? So these are questions that we're still coming up with answers. And we don't know yet how this is all going to shake out, but I'm mostly excited about it. The other thing about AI is that it's finding its way into programs too. I mean, like we are next spring, starting in January, launching a new master's degree in artificial intelligence in the engineering school.
That's amazing.
And so you're going to see more of that work its way into our formal curriculum as well. Yeah.
And I think the point you mentioned about competition, of course, even myself, like when I went to AUD back in my day, AUD was like the gold standard. In my opinion, it still is the gold standard. I know there's a lot of universities that have come up as well, but the prestige of the university, the history of the university, is the point you made earlier about the employment rate of alumni here is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we can
we're
sit on our
reliably
laurels.
north of 90%, which makes us the best in Dubai. I was at a meeting with our colleagues at LinkedIn the other day at their offices, and they told me right when I walked in the door, they said, Dr. Kyle, everyone knows AUD's position in the market and what they're providing for the labor market, and it's sort of immediately like sucked the air out of the room. Like everybody was like, it was the first time somebody had said to me, an employer, somebody that I was going to and trying to find ways for us to collaborate, they said, well, look, everybody knows that AUD graduates are sought after in the marketplace. So that's something that we can build on. So it's sort of like, okay, there is a prestige factor there already in the among employers. It's how can we broaden that prestige among companies we're already working with to new sectors?
Sure.
And how can we leverage that prestige among peers, among government, other stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
It's not only just our university and industry.
Yeah.
We're in a part of a large ecosystem with a number of different stakeholders. There are foundations, there's government, there's other universities, there's foreign governments, there's lots of different organizations and industries that we can work with to strengthen the quality of our output.
No, absolutely. And it sounds like your vision for AUD is to be the singular, or like as a university, the singular resource.
Yes. The way that I like to describe
please.
this is I want us to become the university of choice. right? I want us to be regarded as the university of choice for prospective students and their parents. I want us to be regarded as the university of choice by employers for our graduates. I want us to be regarded as the university of choice by faculty and staff who could come and work here. And I think that we're close on all of those. And we're farther along in other areas. I think we're farther along among the employers. I do think employers see us as the university of choice. But I think we have some improvements that we can make to become the university of choice for students and parents and for faculty and staff. I don't want any faculty member in the region to not be considering working at AUD.
I love that. And, you know, it's funny you say that because as a university of choice, because when we first started this podcast 2 years ago and we were having discussions about it, I told them, I'm like, guys, I want AUD to be recognized as the leader in this space. We are at the forefront of so many industries. I want us to be at the forefront of this as well. And I can say you can't see them on camera, guys, but my team, the team is here. Yeah. Along with the team, I'm very proud of, you know, the work that we've done. I know there's a lot more to come, and we're so excited to, you know, have you be a part of with us and on this journey now. Dr. Kyle, the reason we started this podcast, or the message of this podcast, has always been from day one that success comes in many forms and learning never stops. And based on our conversation today, I think we both align on the learning clearly align on the learning never stops part. So I'd love to hear from you, first of all. Throughout your career, I know you've had many lessons, many things, but I always believe someone along the way learns something that really changes their life. If you could think back and reflect, what would you say that was for you?
Something that really changed my life. A lesson,
sure.
Are we getting something as deep as a sort of philosophy of life? Is that where we're going with this?
We can go wherever you'd like, whatever you know resonates with you.
I think maybe a lesson that I'd probably like to impart, or some sort of takeaway that I found in my own professional journey, has been to never give up, to never be satisfied, to always be seeking for new opportunities, as you said, to learning never stops, to keep growing. But I think that the way that has played out for me has been to always be on the lookout for new opportunities. I always try to say yes to things. Now, there's danger in that because you can get stretched very thin when you say yes to everything. But I think too often people close themselves off from opportunities where simply saying yes to things can open up a whole new world for you.
Absolutely.
And, so when you are a student at AUD and somebody mentions the word study abroad to you, and you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm not the kind of person that would study abroad," you probably are.
Yeah.
When you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm not a math person," no, you just haven't been one yet. If you just give it a shot and another shot and another shot after that, you're probably a math person. And so I think that society often tells us who we are far too early, and then we just believe society. We think that's data, a sufficient amount of data. I mean, it is data. Take it into consideration.
For sure.
But don't be satisfied with it. I found that the people that I try to associate myself with are the ones who are always seeking for self-improvement. Yeah.
I love that answer. And I love the way you described it, especially you said a key word there. Like when you said you're not a math person, you said you're not a math person yet. And I think if you can go apply that not yet mindset to anything that you're doing and saying yes to things, even if it is scary, the learning and the confidence that you get, I can speak from my experience that I've gotten when I've been in those nervous situations and faced my fears and gone through, whether the outcome was successful or not, as a person, I always felt like I grew 10 times because of that. Yeah. And just as my final, not necessarily a question, but thing I'd like to ask you, Dr. Kyle, is First of all, thank you so much for your time today. This has been such an amazing,
I love this
interesting
conversation.
You know,
I'm sorry that you have to have other guests because I would want to come back every week and do this.
You're always welcome. You know, you always have a seat at the table here. What would your just final message that you'd like to share with, you know, to the AUD community, the alumni, and the students for this new phase that we're about to enter together?
Well, that message would be just to convey my own excitement and appreciation for the opportunity and sense of pride that I'm already feeling by becoming a member of this community. I have felt incredibly welcomed from day one, and every experience I have today, not least of them, where I feel welcome. And so that sort of reinforced messaging has made me feel very good, and I'm just really excited about the work that we're all going to do together. And I think that the message would be thank you, and I can't wait for what we're able to accomplish together.
And we can't wait either. Dr. Kyle, thank you so much again for your time today. Thank you for coming on the show. I know you're very busy. I'm incredibly excited for this new chapter, not just for you, but for what we can all do together as a community and as a university. And I'm so excited for what these next couple of years hold. Dr. Kyle, thank you so much for coming.
Much appreciated, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.